Well, oh Canada, we've got the National Bank Open happening in Canada this week, and the draws are set. We got the WTA in Toronto and the ATP in Montreal, and we've got people on the ground from the Slice at both bringing the content for you. And Medvedev and Nick Kyrgios are heading into this week as winners who won tournaments just over the weekend, so we're going to talk about that. Daria Kasatkina just won in San Jose, so she's coming in as a fresh winner. And we got Serena and Venus Williams on the ground in Toronto, so there's lots of stars. No big three, no problem. So let's break down these star-studded draws and take a look at all the action that's coming up this week in Canada. Here's the slice presented by PointsBet Canada. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, this is Casper Ruud.
Hey, it's Dennis Shapovalov.
And welcome to The Slice.
All right. Big show today, people. Thanks for being here. We got, the tour has come to Canada, my home country. I haven't come to Canada. I'm still stuck here in Europe, but we got our Canadian flags. And like I said, we got people on the ground, Brandon in Toronto and Julian going today to Montreal to bring content for you guys. So thank you guys for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video. And thanks for following The Slice at The Slice Tennis on Instagram and Twitter, where we will be uploading lots of content from the ground, like player interviews, fun takes, fan interviews, stuff like that, kind of vlog style stuff. So follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and then you'll get the real experience from Toronto and Montreal this week. The Slice is presented by PointsBet Canada, our sweet partners. They've been helping us throughout this year bring the content to you guys. So if you're in Ontario and you're wanting to responsibly and respectively bet on the tennis, you have to do it with PointsBet Canada because they invest in tennis and they are the Canadian tennis betting destination. So thanks to PointsBet Canada for presenting The Slice. Okay, so we're going to talk about ATP first and then W today. We got a big show today, so stay tuned. Nick Kyrgios does the double in Washington. Did you guys see this coming? Nick Kyrgios, after making the finals of Wimbledon, playing unbelievably there, has continued to play unbelievably here, winning Washington, saved match points against Francis Tiafoe earlier in the tournament, but did not lose his serve one time all tournament. That is scary territory. So just taking a quick look at his 2020. Almost 80% win rate in 2020, 79.4. Wimbledon finalist, Australian Open doubles champion, Washington champion, and he won the doubles in Washington as well. Crazy. Nick transformed. This is what getting a good, solid, stable relationship will do to you. He's in a finally solid, stable relationship, it seems, and he's got a girl he likes. I think they're engaged. They're going to get married, have babies, and now he's on the straight and narrow. He's playing the best tennis of his career probably right now. So he's looking scary, and Medvedev won and lost Cabos, his first title of the season, actually, kind of strange, broke a 5-final losing streak. You wouldn't think that based on his last title was literally the US Open, where he beat Djokovic in the final. So the crazy thing is that Kyrgios and Medvedev could play in round 2 in Montreal. So that's a crazy draw because they're probably the two hottest players on the ATP coming into the draw. So you got to think that. And then we had Nadal pull out with the abdominal injury that is surprisingly still bothering him after Wimbledon. He might have just used that as an excuse, though, to not play. Probably doesn't want to play Montreal and Cincinnati as he leads up to the US Open. So I think he probably was just like, yeah, my ab's not fully healed. And then that's a good reason to just play Cincinnati and then the US Open. So I'm sure that is what the deal is for Nadal. So we're going to take a look. No, like I said, no big three, no problem. Still an amazing draw. So let's take a look at the 8 top seeds and where they are in the draw. We got Medvedev versus Hurkacz on the top, and then we got potentially in the quarterfinals. This is Ruud, friend of the show, big interview on The Slice. Won Gstaad, saw him lots in person here in the last month versus FAA. That would be an amazing semifinal or quarterfinal. And then we got Sinner versus Tsitsipas potential. Again, blockbuster. And then Rublev versus Alcaraz. Carlitos Alcaraz. So that's where they've lined up. What's interesting to me is that Tsitsipas is on the bottom half with Sinner and Alcaraz. So those are challenges for him because we've seen him have trouble with these younger guys who are even younger than him. And he's lost, I think, the first 3 matches he's played with Alcaraz, or maybe they've only played twice. I don't know. But that's a rivalry I want to see more of. Potential semifinal there. So super interesting. And then we got Medvedev on the top. He's got a tough route, I think, to defend his title. If you guys remember, he won Toronto last year. Or they were in Toronto last year. So He's got 1,000 points to defend, so he's going to need to do well here. And it's funny because her coach, I think, at the Miami Open, stopped Medvedev from getting to number one at that tournament in the quarterfinals, if I remember correctly. If Medvedev had gotten to the semifinals, he would have been world number one, but he didn't make it because her coach stopped him. So they could play here in the quarterfinals in Montreal. That would be interesting. So some first round craziness from Montreal. Baez. So Kyrgios comes off of Washington playing amazing, private jets up to Montreal. And he'll have to play tough customer Sebastian Baez in round one. So that's interesting because Baez is amazing. He's had a great year and he hits huge for his size. He's just like a pit bull out there, kind of like Rude-esque, but shorter than Rude. But anyways, that'll be a tough first round for Kyrgios, honestly. He could be an issue. And then Kyrgios wins that, he can play Medvedev. Now, Medvedev is like the ultimate kryptonite for Kyrgios, I would say. You don't see Medvedev getting rattled by Kyrgios' antics, even though it could happen. Medvedev does get rattled. You saw them play at the Australian Open. Medvedev just kind of smothered Kyrgios. The one thing Medvedev has is unbelievable returning, and so he is able, probably better than anyone else on tour, to handle Kyrgios' serve because of his length and how far he stands back. So he's going to just get everything back into play. That'll be a super, super interesting round two match if that happens in Montreal. Anyways, Shapovalov versus de Minaur, another tough one for Shapo. Literally, he just can't get his form back. It's very, very tough for him. I tweeted out, you would think that he would have to make a coaching, or he would be making a coaching change soon away from Peter Polansky, his friend, fellow also Challenger Tour player who's been coaching him since basically right before he beat Nadal in Rome, but he hasn't won basically anything since then. So it's been a tough route for Shapo. He'll be, de Minaur in the first round's a tough matchup, so he'll be looking to get through that and then just make the Canadian magic. He does have those amazing memories from Montreal 2017, beating Nadal in the round of 32, round of 16, I forget, in Montreal. That was just absolutely amazing. I think you guys all remember that. Got Bublik versus Brooksby, another pretty good first round, and then Fritz versus Murray, super interesting as well. But yeah, that's kind of how I think it's interesting. How's Sinner going to do? We saw Sinner take out Alcaraz to win Umag and make it to the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. So he's playing very well. I expect Sinner to do really big things. How will Alcaraz do? Kind of, people are like, it's like weird to see Alcaraz lose a few matches in a row and not just play unbelievably well. But he is 19. He's the number 2 seed in this tournament, so that's going to be interesting on the bottom half. How's he going to do? And like I already mentioned, I think it's interesting having Tsitsipas in the same half as Sinner versus Alcaraz, and we'll see how that plays out. So nice draw in Montreal. Super nice draw. As I said, Julian, our social media manager, is flying into Montreal today, and he'll be there on the ground getting sweet reels for you on Instagram. So follow at the Slice Tennis on Instagram, and he'll be in some of the press conferences post-match. You know what it is, doing the good work on the ground in Montreal. So shout out to Julian for that. Now we got the WTA, the women. They're in Toronto, and Brendan McCarthy from North of the Net and Karina Mustafa is also there, but she's working for a different outlet, which will remain unnamed. But they're both there on the ground with credentials, which is awesome. And yeah, it's an awesome field as well. And they got both Venus and Serena. So there's a lot of, actually, and we'll get into it, there's a lot of really top star players on the women's side that are there, but they're not ranked. They're just unranked players. Some of them got protected ranking entries, and they're playing. It sets up for like a really crazy run of like first round matches. So we'll look at those. But first, let's just look at how the top 8 seeds are sprinkled and what the potential quarterfinals could look like. Swiatek number 1 versus Muguruza. Swiatek Sakkari versus Jabeur in the top. So those 4 in the top. And then we got Pegula versus Badosa possibly in the third quarterfinal. And then Sabalenka versus Kontaveit. So those are where the 8 seeds are. But as we know in the women's game, that can blow up at any point. And the interesting thing to me is that, like I said, those other stars who don't have rankings right now are just sprinkled throughout. And we'll show you where they are. Question to me, though, is will Swiatek find dominance again on the WTA, or will it go back to being wide open? It's kind of hard to imagine it going back to being wide open because for so long there, the first part of the season, it was just, will Swiatek lose a match? That was the question. Like 37 matches in a row, absolutely crazy. All the other women on tour have put on notice about how good she is. So she is definitely the number 1 star, biggest player, best player on the WTA right now. She has lost a couple matches recently, which is not normal. So that'll be interesting. Let's look, like I said, where these other big players line up here. We got Serena. She plays a lucky loser in round 1, so that could be good for her and good for the tournament. If she can get a win there, that would get some definitely buzz going around the grounds. Venus Williams plays Jill Teichmann in round 1. That's a tough first round match. Leylah Fernandez plays Storm Sanders. Naomi Osaka plays Kai Kanepi in the first round. You're getting this drift here. Lots of big matches. Bianca Andreescu, friend of the show, plays Daria Kasatkina in round 1. That's crazy because Kasatkina just won in San Jose, but Bianca Andreescu beat her in Bad Homburg before Wimbledon on the grass. And that was, to me, fairly comprehensively. And so I like this matchup actually for Andreescu because Kasatkina doesn't have a ton of power. And I think Andreescu has more power, and Kasatkina does not have a big serve. So it's very easy for Andreescu to get into that serve break and do damage on her amazing return. So to me, that's like a 50-50. I think Andreescu has a big chance there. She'll have the home crowd. She'll also have the home pressure, but we'll see. And Kasatkina's got to be a little tired from winning the tournament just yesterday, basically. So we got Sofia Kenin, won the Australian Open a while back. He used to be amazing. Really fallen off, injuries, craziness going on. She plays Sloane Stephens, also won the U.S. Open in round 1. Rybakina, who's not even seeded at this tournament, even though she just won Wimbledon because of the crazy rankings. Rybakina plays Bouzkova in round 1, so obvious dark horse there. Simona Halep, also ranking is down because no points from Wimbledon, plays Donna Vekic. And Coco Gauff plays Madison Bringle. So that's a lot of names, isn't it? But that's a lot of just big first-round matches in Toronto. So I know the tournament organizers are stoked about that. And, yeah, the action in Toronto is going to be impeccable. The first day order of play, which is today, Monday, is really awesome. So I waited till Monday to do my preview of the Canadian WTA 1000 and Masters 1000 because all the qualifiers are there now. And it's just a very, very good draw on both men's and women's sides. I'm excited to see it. There's nothing about it that I would say, obviously we're missing Djokovic and Nadal. But the ATP to me has so many young players and interesting players that it's not really that big of a loss when they're not there to me. It's like, it's the Masters 1000 is definitely no longer being held by those two guys. And it's like up to kind of the top 8-10 players on the ATP who's going to win. So that's super interesting to me. We got, lots of players who have come in, qualified. It's interesting. Giron had to qualify. Manarino, Rinderknech, Fognini had to qualify. Jack Draper's in the draw. He had to qualify. Super strong qualifying group in there. And the wildcard group, if you didn't know, is Alexis Galarneau from Canadian. Just made the final in the Winnipeg Challenger. That was big. David Goffin from Belgium. He got a wild card. Obviously a great player. Stan Wawrinka's in there with the protected ranking. Nishioka is a special entry after making the final in Washington. Hugo Gaston got qualified, so I said. Andy Murray got a wild card. Vasek Pospisil, Canadian, got a wild card. So star-studded field in both. Great tournaments ahead. So the follows that you got to do from this. At The Slice Tennis on Instagram, at The Slice Tennis on Twitter. If you're not following me, at The Slice Steven on Twitter, do that. And follow Brendan McCarthy. I'll link it below on Twitter as he is there on the ground doing the work for The Slice. So stay tuned. We'll update you guys as the tournament goes on with all the content that you're going to need. Thanks for keeping it locked here on The Slice. And that's the preview of the draws in Montreal and Toronto. Let the games begin.